Hello and welcome to another episode of The Ins and Outs of Work. My name is Joe, your HR outsider, and here's Neely.
Your HR insider.
And welcome to today's episode where we're going to be treating a bit of a different topic. It's office politics. Amazing. It's a topic we all, if we've worked for more than maybe a week, you probably know all about already. Office politics. And today we want to take you through kind of a high-level overview of how to navigate office politics, right, Neely?
Yes, a nice person's guide to office politics.
Exactly, a nice person's guide. Because, you know, all sorts of people play office politics, but we want to show you a nice person's guide to office politics.
Yes, the idea behind it kind of is that you cannot really escape from office politics. So if you really have to somehow engage in them, how can you do so as a nice person? And how can you do so, I think, in a, friendly way, right?
Totally. So. And this personally, Neely, it's a topic that I've spent a lot of time thinking, okay, I just want to do a good job. I just want to sit down and just do my work and not engage in this stuff. But I've learned over the years, what you've just said is that you can't really just sit it out. You can't really ignore it because a lot of times, especially in large organizations, I found this is kind of what makes the organization tick, right? It's kind of knowing the right people, and we're going to go into what it's all about, what it actually is. But, you know, it's knowing the right people, it's having the right relationships, all that sort of thing. So we want to show you how to do it right and how to do it with dignity, I guess.
Yeah, totally. So please do listen until the end of the episode because we will be sharing some really great tips of how to navigate office politics, but in the right way, as Joe said.
Exactly. Okay, so first of all, what we're going to do, Neely, is to kind of set the scene. We want, you know, and this is a bit of humor as well. We want to play a clip, okay? And this is from The Onion. So if you know The Onion, you don't need to take it too seriously. It's a bit of a joke, but it paints you a very good picture of what office politics is all about. So let's play that.
With younger voters pledging support to the Obama campaign in record numbers, 2008 seemed to indicate an uptick in young people's political involvement. But a recent study finds that most youth still remain uninterested in office politics. Researchers from the Shuttleworth Institute found that just 32% of employed men and women under the age of 25 said they were concerned about the size of co-workers' expense accounts and who makes a new pot of coffee if they finish it, as opposed to 74% of employees over 40.
Young people fail to concern themselves with vital workplace topics like how unfair it is that the third floor got new computers before everyone else, or the real reason that Carla was picked to go to the Miami conference.
Stephen, a 24-year-old sales assistant from Philadelphia, admits he pays little attention to what goes on outside his cubicle.
I feel like the entire office political system is just corrupt, so why should I care?
Joe, I mean, what a great clip, right?
Yes, amazing. So hopefully that's just brought to life a couple of examples around office politics, what it can sort of be about. In there at one point it talked about why the third floor got better computers than us. So, you know, it's not always it's a bit gossipy. It's not always the nicest kind of conversations.
No.
But maybe that's a good step into, you know, these kind of office politics power moves, if we call them that. Because I think we all have a sense, we don't need to define what office politics is, but let's practically paint a picture of what it can look like.
Yeah, definitely, Joe. Well, I mean, you just mentioned one already, and it's about gossiping and spreading rumors. I think that's probably the most popular form of office politicking. But then there's also, I think these sometimes can be like really infuriating, kind of trying to gain the boss's favor by flattering them.
That's where my mind first goes, is like, if you talk office politics, the first thing I think of is someone kissing the boss's butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And then, and this one I think is a very sneaky one and also infuriating. It's taking credit for others' work.
Oh, that's when it gets nasty. It's like, you didn't do that work. Why are you saying you did the work? that can be part of office politics.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of high school, you know, when you're working on group projects and then there was someone going to take the credit for the work that all the other ones in the group did.
Yeah.
It's such a shame that we see this in the workplace.
We're all just big high schoolers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was another one?
Yes, there's another one, and this is also a nasty one. It's sabotaging co-workers' projects. This is another probably more common form of office politics. I mean, imagine there's going to be a new tool implemented, or maybe a new platform internally for people within the company to chat with each other, and not everybody's a big fan of it, and then people actively sabotaging the adoption of the platform or the tool. That can be one example.
Yep.
But obviously, yeah, very, very painful.
Painful. Essentially, all of these things, these power moves, they're bringing politics into the office. It's a chess game, right, Neely? It's like, how do I position myself to be ahead of that person for this opportunity, for that opportunity? To further paint the point, we want to show a couple of examples from popular culture, from some TV series, from wildly popular TV series you'll already know all about. But just to give you a sense of like what this can look like, and office politics is actually all through TV, movies, everything. So we want to show you 3 clips as part of this introduction and give you a sense of what it can look like as well.
And to have a bit of a laugh.
Yes.
So here's the first one, and it's from
the movie Office Space.
Corporate accounts payable, Nina speaking.
Hello, Peter. What's happening? We have sort of a problem here. Yeah, you apparently didn't put one of the new cover sheets on your TPS reports.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I forgot.
Yeah. You see, we're putting the cover sheets on all TPS reports now before they go out. Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah. Yeah, I have the memo right here. I just forgot. But it's not shipping out till tomorrow, so there's no problem.
Yeah. If you could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on, that would be great. And I'll go ahead and make sure you get another copy of that memo. Okay?
Yeah, no, I have the memo. I've got it. It's right.
Hello, Phil. What's happening?
Okay, Neely, that's from the movie Office Space, a 1999 movie, so it's going back a wee while. But it's probably one of the best movies to think about when you're thinking office politics and how it can play out, okay? Because in that clip you will have heard or just seen the boss, and this guy's notorious. He is an office politician to the max, okay?
Yeah.
And what is he sort of doing there, Neely? Like, what if you had to summarize it?
Well, I mean, he was clearly power tripping, wasn't
Just
he?
tripping on the power.
Yeah, and he was loving it.
Yeah, loving it.
All right.
And the other guy's trying to tell him, I have the memo. Like, I have the memo. And he's just like, I'll get you the memo.
I'll make sure you get the memo.
I'll make
again.
sure you get the memo.
Yeah. I mean, it's hilarious. Well, it's hilarious, and at the same time, if this is real life, then it's absolutely not hilarious.
That's soul destroying.
Yeah, you ready for a second one?
Second one. This one's from The Office.
Classic.
You'll never guess what I know.
Okay, let me finish this thought.
Eric likes Megan.
He most definitely does. He's been asking her out repeatedly for weeks. She finally said yes. They went out on a group date the other night. Apparently it went very well.
How do you know this?
People tell me things. I guess I have a face you can trust. I think it's because of my low cheekbones. And boom. Okay, what is it? What can I guess?
Okay, Neely. So in that one, we saw, I think, a really great example of office gossip coming through there, where Michael is the boss character. He says to Dwight, have you heard about this couple romance in the office? And Dwight has heard about it. But anyway, it's a good example of office gossip.
Yeah, it is. It's a good example. And this is what we not see in the clip because we wanted to keep things short and sweet for you. But what we don't see is that afterwards, that the person who, what's his name again? Michael, he actually was very much not happy about the fact that he didn't know about it. This is a real effect of office gossip. People feel like excluded.
And it's all about being in the know, being able to spread the right rumor, having the right knowledge. Office gossip, office politics.
Now, the third clip from one of my favorite series, because I absolutely love this one. Here's one from Suits.
Holy shit.
Was that a good holy shit or a bad holy shit?
Harvey, you just told me that you're planning a coup. Give me a second to figure that out.
Not a coup. It's a move. And when you're done with your lecture...
No lecture. I just have one question. Do I get my own office?
And that one is probably where this all culminates, nearly basically a coup, okay? And what you've seen there is the guy, what's his name? Harvey. And the other one? Donna, thank you. So Donna's like, well, you're making this move. What does it mean for me?
What's in it for me?
Aligning the power. That's such a political move. You think about politicians. They're always just cozying up. What can I get from what you're doing?
A bigger office in this case. So it makes you wonder how all these people in these offices, at the corner office, how did they end up getting that corner office?
I thought they just did a really good job at their work. Yeah.
I think this is a nice person's guide to office politics. So yes, that's how they got the office. All right. So now, moving on, we thought we'd give you some tips to see, okay, let's look at what it takes to be a good politician.
Yes, because first of all, I think it's important, we thought it was important to kind of paint a picture of what makes a good politician. Because obviously this episode, we want to help you do it the right way, but first of all, you have to understand, what do good politicians do well? And I think we have like 4 things here that they, kind of skills that they have. So it's good to just get a sense of this.
Yeah. I'll kick off. First thing is there's this kind of social astuteness. Now, what does that mean? That means that it's an ability to read other people and the self-awareness to understand how they see you. Because most people think of self-awareness as introspection, but its essence is actually other awareness. That is knowing how other people see you and how your behavior impacts them. So this is one let's say, skill or talent that good politicians have.
Yes. And I guess if you think about why this is important in an office setting, like organizations are made up of a whole range of people, right? So your ability to interact socially and get along with and build relationships with people of all sorts of different backgrounds is only going to stand you in good stead. And it's not actually a negative thing to be able to do that well. You can use that skill in a very positive way.
Yes, absolutely. You can also, of course, abuse it if you're very aware of how others see you. You can use it both ways. But again, this is a nice person's guide. So here we want to see the positive side of things.
Yes.
Then the second thing it's called interpersonal influence. And this is a convincing ability to affect how and what other people think. And it involves first understanding them and their preferences and agendas, and then personalizing your message to appeal to their cause. Now, this sounds already a lot more like actual politic-y to me.
Actual politicking. It does. I think it's around like ability to persuade and to get people to, understand, kind of come onto your side of an argument, I guess, in some ways. But everything I'm hearing here again in Nearly is a sense that it's about listening at the start, right? It's about understanding someone else and their point of view. Yeah. Even if you can use this to then manipulate them, I'm sure you can use this to also, do it in a good way. And we're going to get onto that later.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Do you want to go to the next one?
Okay, yes. The third one would be networking ability. So this is, if I sort of summarize this, it's the capacity to form mutually beneficial relationships with a wide range of diverse people. So going back to that Suits example, Donna's going to get her office. That's mutually beneficial for her. And Harvey's going to probably be the big boss. Mutually beneficial, So cynics might say that there is only a 1-letter difference between networking and not working. That's brilliant. But having a significant influence often requires a coalition of support. And as the old saying goes, contacts means contracts. And this touches on a good point, Nearly, because I think a lot of times my perception of office politicking before has been that it's not working. It's like, what are you doing? Like, just do your work and just leave it. But I think in a sense, you can do your job better if you, as this said, build these coalitions, build these relationships, and networking is actually really powerful even within the organization.
Yeah, I understand that you thought of it as not working. I can definitely see where you're coming from, because it can seem like some people are always just chatting around with everybody in the entire building, and they're more chatting than they are actually working. So I can see where it comes from, but I think networking is something that's very important. We've talked about it in the podcast before with some of our fabulous guests as well, Joe, that it's super important for everybody. But I think, as with a lot of things, it's all about finding that right balance between, yes, take the time to invest in networking, but at the same time, make sure you get the work done.
Yeah, totally. And then the final one nearly was, this is, probably a skill that kind of sets good politicians apart, is apparent sincerity. Maybe you could put apparent into brackets.
Let's put it into brackets,
Brackets. Yeah. So sincerity, if you're a nice person doing office politics, so seeming to be honest, open, and forthright is really important. It's also really around how that person that you're speaking to or building that relationship with perceives you. So where office politics gets really gross and kind of like you were saying before, gets a bit like bleh, is where you know that the person is not being honest, and you can see through that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you can see right through it. And for me, there's like apparent sincerity is something that I do see a lot in the politicians that we have today. So this one, it's definitely something that politicians have often in their toolkit, but it's not something I'd recommend you to have in your nice person's office politic toolkits.
Just be sincere.
Yeah, just be sincere, period.
It's a good point. Nearly, I think one thing we wanted to mention here, before we move on to further tips, and we have actually 5 tips, a nice person's guide to actually navigating this. We wanted to talk about, obviously the name is office politics, right? But with the events of 2020, 2021, we work hybridly, we work remotely. Because we're not in the office, has it removed office politics?
Great question, Joe. That's a great question. But I think we both know the answer to that.
I was asking the question, but I sort of know the answer.
Yeah. In a virtual environment, I think as we've seen and witnessed over the past year, these things still exist. They take a different form, but there's definitely still some office politicking going on. So there's the example that we might have all come across one or more times, where we are in a big Zoom call or Teams call or whatsoever with so many people, and then in the chat there will always be that one person or that few persons that are going to be strategically kissing the butt in the comments, in the section of that call. So
there is. I think, like you're saying, it's just a lot of this stuff can just translate over into like Zooms and like Teams, and it's like, just because we're not in an office, it's really just about interactions. So you could call it, interaction politics, organizational politics. It's like the result of having this many people in one place, in one, pulling in one direction, a lot of times means that someone wants to get above the other person, and you want to do, So yeah, Zooms, exactly. Another example would be unmuting yourself with a well-timed, I totally agree, just after a really great point or something.
Yeah.
Or I was just going to say that. Just to sort of attach on to a good point that's been made.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the hybrid model or even the digital first model has not got rid of the office politics.
So true.
Which brings us, Joe, to I think the most interesting and also hopeful part of this episode, where we have 5 tips to playing the office politics game well. Because if you can't ignore it, you might as well learn how to play the game, but in a respectful way.
Yes, it's a good point. If you're an ambitious person, if you want to get ahead, you're going to need to play the game in some way, but there's a good way to play the game, and we want to give you 5 tips to playing it that way, okay? So, number 1, Nearly, we'll just go through these, okay? Number 1 is going to be to understand the informal network in the company beyond the formal hierarchy. So I can quickly talk about what we mean by that, but then you bounce off this, okay? So for me, there's a hierarchy on paper. There's a organizational chart, right? And that's one thing. But behind the scenes, there's another one. And there's a sense of who knows who doesn't get along with who loves who. And kind of understanding that, in a sense, is really important and is a good first step.
Yeah, totally agree. On to number 2, understand what motivates people and why they may be behaving in a certain way. I think this is super important. We talked about it already a little bit, and that's something that's become even more important over the past almost 2 years. Really try to listen to the people you work with. Try to put yourself in their shoes, where they are coming from, why they might be reacting and thinking in a certain way. Very important.
Yeah. And I think to this point, it's like, you have what you want to achieve, they have what they want to achieve, and try to focus not on, using people, but kind of creating things that work for both of you. I think that's really important. And that's actually, I might be preempting a little bit because we talk about that a bit later. But number 3 is build genuine connections with people. So the key word here is genuine. As I was just saying, it touched on the last point, this point as well. Be genuine about it. Like, these are people, these are human beings. They're not just pawns in a chess game. Build genuine relationships with them. Actually care about who they are if you can. And then you're going to see, you're going to be able to get to where you want to get to. And you're also going to make maybe friends in the process. And maybe that sounds a bit fluffy and a bit airy-fairy, but I think it's the best way to go about this. If you genuinely care and build relationships with these people that are around you, you're going to get the best outcomes.
Yeah, and I think one note to that, Joe, is that it doesn't mean that you need to like everyone. Doesn't necessarily mean that, because we're all different people, and there are people we get along with easier than with others, but it just means that be genuine with them and be respectful.
Yeah, exactly.
And try to think of the common goals that you have in mind.
Good
now,
point.
The next one is my favorite probably, Joe, is do the work. Number 4, fourth tip, do the work. This one, very important, show what you have done. Now, this is something that personally I have found very, very difficult for a long time. Like, I would do the work and then I would almost be offended that no one would recognize that I did all that work and that no one would actually appreciate it. I say, oh, wow, bravo, Nelly. No, actually, it's your responsibility. You should take ownership, and you should make sure that people see the work that you are doing.
That's a really good point, Nelly. And I think here it kind of leaves unsaid the fact that people who are really good at office politics sometimes don't do the work and they somehow manage to not do it. But if you want to do it in a great way, if you want to play office politics the right way, do the work and show, like Nelly said, show that you've done it and build from there. Cool. And number 5, the final one, is to neutralize negative politics. So a lot of the things we've been talking about in this episode so far are kind of negative things that come with office politics. If you want to play it the right way, neutralize those things. So, for example, avoid passing on rumors without taking time to carefully consider their source, credibility, or impact. Just, if something's negative, even if it's going to help you out, take the high road. It's gonna be best in the long run. Remain professional. Try not to take sides too much. Don't get sucked into arguments or little petty things like that. Understand, sure, where you want to get to, your ambitions, but don't get sucked into the negativity.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then the last element I think that's important here with this one is, if you're voicing concerns or criticism of your own, be confident and assertive, but don't be aggressive. And also make sure that you take an organizational perspective and not simply a selfish one. I think common sense, really, this one.
Common sense. So that was our 5 points around how to approach this. Hope you've enjoyed that. Do go back, listen through, and make note and think about how you can action those in your week to come. We wanted to finally, in the last couple of minutes here, just leave you with a couple of book recommendations, because we found a couple of really cool looking books on this topic. The first one, and we're going to link in the show notes in the description to these books. The first one's called 21 Dirty Tricks at Work, How to Beat the Game of Office Politics. So it talks through a lot of the things we just talked about. What are those dirty tricks and how do you overcome them?
Yeah. And then the second one is Secrets to Winning at Office Politics, How to Achieve Your Goals and Increase Your Influence at Work.
Yeah.
So another one that's probably worth checking out.
Check it out.
Yeah, but please, I think from Joe and me, I can speak for both of us, that please bear in mind that this is, we really want to take this from the nice person's angle.
Yes, the nice person's angle. So we've really tried today to just paint a picture of what office politics could look like, a new view of it, rather than, playing the negative game or getting all involved in gossip and rumors. This is how you could play it if you are a nice person and you want to remain one.
Yeah. Wow, that was it, Joe. Thanks so much for that.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you haven't done so yet, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share the episode with a friend, and leave us a review if you're on Apple Podcasts. And then we'll see you soon for a new episode of The Ins and Outs of Work.
Yes,
Bye.
see you soon.